So welcome and thank you to our board of directors, donors, staff, and community partners and friends that are joining us here this evening. Thank you also to our virtual members who are joining us as well for our 2020 annual meeting. I am so excited that we are actually able to be gathered here in person. It'd be nice if it was a little warmer like yesterday, but it's nice to be here and see so many smiling faces. So as we stand here this evening, I am very hopeful and optimistic about our future. 2020 was certainly an unprecedented year and one that we probably would all like to forget. With the onset of COVID-19 pandemic in March, our daily lives and routines were changed instantaneously. Despite the many challenges we faced, one major theme comes to mind, and that's resilience. When we were forced to close our doors on March 14th, we quickly had to pivot how we do our work. We transitioned to offering virtual programs, including group exercise classes, coaching sessions, and preschool. We also took this time to focus on the needs of the community. Our staff and volunteers made over 600 check-in calls to seniors during the first wave of the pandemic. We partnered with Person to Person and had over 125 staff and volunteers collect and deliver thousands of pounds of food to help families with food insecurities. We partnered with Darien Human Services Department to collect household items during the month of December. In June, when we reopened, we had 452 campers come here for a safe and fun summer camp experience. And of those 452, we were able to award scholarships to 97 of them. Throughout the year in 2020, through the generosity of this community, we raised over $235,000 so that we could continue to provide financial assistance for those in need for our programs and services. Because of this tremendous support, we were able to award almost $300,000 in direct financial assistance for our programs and services, giving everyone the opportunity to be a part of the Y. It was not easy. We had to make a lot of tough decisions along the way last year, and it was tremendously challenging for the Y with having operations halted and then severely restricted from March on. Again, I see the future looking bright. Tonight's a great example of it, but we have so many adults and teens now fully vaccinated, and the restrictions are being lifted in the state and around the country. We see here children being thrilled to be back with their peers, socializing and engaging in activities. Adults are returning to their fitness routines, and seniors are once again feeling safe to be here in group exercise classes and seeing their friends. The successes that we had in 2020 and the impact that we made was done with a team of dedicated staff and volunteers. This team came together more so than ever during this time of crisis. So I'd like to first thank our leadership staff. This team has had to pivot and rethink the way we do things. And I thank all of you for the countless hours that you put in keeping things going, changing to the ever changing, and sometimes at the very last minute, the day before Thanksgiving, state guidelines and rules, and never losing sight of the importance of keeping our members and our staff safe. We had so many staff working the front lines, directly with children, directly with our members, and everyone truly did an amazing job. So thank you to all of our staff. So early in 2020, Mike Catano agreed that he would be willing to take the role of board president when the term of our board president, John Schrenker, ended. Leading an organization during a pandemic was not something I'm sure that he had counted on in January, but he has done a truly amazing job. Mike knew and said often that we needed all hands on deck, and that we certainly have had. We appreciate the knowledge and expertise that all of our board members have brought to the table and have provided to us this year. So I would like to personally thank Mike, not only our current board members, but our past board members for giving up their time, their talents, and their treasures during the past year. Thank you. In the fall, we were fortunate to be able to work with David Rooftooth of Black 7 Creative to create several videos that emphasize the important role that the Y played in this community, and also to really showcase all the things that we were doing as an organization to keep our members safe. If you have not seen the videos, I would encourage you to take a look at them on the Darien YMCA YouTube channel, and you'll find them there. What was so compelling about these videos was the testimonials of our staff and our members. And it really made these stories compelling. So to go along with that, we have several volunteers that are here with us this evening to also share their why. Thank you to Jane Maron, Line Kennedy, and Jay Davenport for joining us here this evening. So I'd like to first welcome our longtime member, Jane Maron, to come and share her journey with us.
I don't want to miss any of the things that I want to tell you, so I have my little cheat sheet here. But Sam and I moved to Darien 25 years ago with teenage boys. And one of the first things we did was to join the Y because to get that kind of experience. And I started out as looking at the machines and thinking, I don't know, I've really never done this before. So I got a personal trainer, and her name was Andrea. And I think I spent 8 years with her. And I came once a week because I was working in Fairfield. I really didn't have the time to come back and forth. But, you know, she was cognizant of the fact that I had a sore back all the time, and I sat in a chair as a counselor. So she spent a lot of time making sure that I didn't hurt it. And, you know, eventually I realized that maybe I don't really need a person. She was always there if I needed her. And I then went with Beth over to the yoga, and Beth lived in our neighborhood, and she had quite a following. It was sometimes very difficult to find a spot in the classroom, but it was one of the most, she was so good at making sure that everybody learned, and they kept coming and leaving and coming. But she would start by teaching them what they had to learn to do yoga and not hurt themselves, to try to remember what they had to do. And in between all this, I have to tell you that Sam and I would come in separate cars because we had different timing. And I would walk in the morning, and Steve would be saying, "Hey, Jane, Sam didn't come today. What's up?" Or he'd say the same thing to Sam, like, "Where's Jane? I haven't seen her in a long time." So that's like the first part of, besides the people that train you or work with you, that's the first part of the feeling that, you know, this is like a second home. It's a place where you can go and feel welcomed and warm and comfortable. And since we had moved here, we really didn't know a lot of people. And Sam went to New York and I went to Bridgeport, and we just didn't really get a chance to meet people. And our kids went to Fairfield Prep, so we really didn't even know parents of kids. So after that, I did Pilates, but I didn't last too long with that. And then my true love, water aerobics. So I went to the pool, and Nancy Groon is the most amazing human being I've ever met in my life. And she just inspired me, is the only word I can use. And I think she's done it to a few people, but also the warm, welcoming women that are in that class from all ages and from all parts and walks of life. And it's like coming home to a family when you go in there all the time. And when I don't go, I miss it. And I really, over the COVID year, I had decided that I was going to get in shape like my Marine husband. So I'm going to really do it this time. And I went and got a nutritionist, and she was amazing and set me on this path. And I had to do exercise like every day. Not, and I had retired on top of it all. So I did, and I went almost every single day to water aerobics, and I became sort of crazy about it, I guess. But I've lost 40 pounds since COVID began, and I have muscles. I have muscles, and it's the other thing that I didn't want to forget, who keep this place clean, and the people who obviously we've just heard who manage the Y did such an incredible job. And we only lost, I think it was like 8 weeks during COVID in the pool, because somebody who was very ingenious came up with the idea that they would make pods for us so we could go back in the pool. And if that isn't wonderful, I don't know what other departments that had happened in, but so that's my story, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody might have, but there are more people that are going to tell their stories. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. As you said, we had to be creative because that's how we had to operate this year. That was Amy's idea, how we were going to rope off the pool every day to be able to continue to run, water one area, but so many areas of the Y. And certainly congratulations on the weight loss of 40 pounds. So next, I'd like to invite Elizabeth Drew to share her story.
Thank you, Jen. Hi, my name is Elizabeth Drew. We joined the YMCA in 2012. I have 3 children. Owen, who's 8, Julie, 5, and Maeve, who is 3. We've done everything since 2012, from gymnastics, swimming, the beautiful exercise facility, the camp, all of it, you name it. And what Jane said really is so true. This is a second home. For us, it has become, for sure, a home away from home. Everyone from the front door, whether it's Steve or Lisa, Suzanne, April, everyone here is just really lovely, and it's warm, and it's comfortable, and it's safe. 2020 was an interesting year for school. I have a kindergartner and a second grader at Hindley, and it was a challenge. I had a child who couldn't read entering kindergarten, and a second grader, a boy who sitting in front of a computer was really a challenge for him. So when we got word from Suzanne that the YMCA would be offering the hybrid learning lab, we jumped at the opportunity. I cannot tell you, Suzanne, how much our family appreciates everything you did to make it the hybrid learning lab what it was. My kids were so frustrated, anxious, unsure about the Zooming and not being with their peers and all of it. It was scary, and it was scary for me and my husband too, working from home, having a toddler, and just managing it all was a challenge. And what the hybrid learning lab did for my kids was it gave them a chance to be with their peers and your staff. You jumped. You were so quick to jump, and you did a wonderful, wonderful job. I also, a friend of mine, Kristen Nayarati, who has a set of twins, second grade twins, and a kindergartner, also asked me to speak tonight and to tell you that you single-handedly saved her career because you provided a safe, comfortable, warm home away from home for our children to learn, engage, and be students and be happy and be fun and be free. And I just want to thank everyone, Jennifer, everyone on the board, for making the Y what it is. We are so grateful to be members here, and look forward to many, many more memories here. Thank you. No more hybrid. Back to school.
Thank you, Elizabeth. If for those of you that couldn't hear, Suzanne said no more hybrid. So and that's, I mean, it's, you know, you see all over the country of number of people that have had to drop out, women in particular, that have had to drop out of the workforce because it was too hard to juggle careers and kids doing hybrid and everything. And as challenging as it is for the parents, it's challenging for the kids, it's challenging for everybody. But again, Suzanne jumped up and we had staff, you know, willing to work, willing to be with these kids. And it just, I mean, we try and make everything work as much as possible. So now we will hear from our other volunteers that came a little bit later on, but I would like to now invite Mike Catano, our president of the board of directors, to say a few words on the board.
Good to be with you tonight and here, and the setting is just unbelievable. Over the past 5 years of being part of the board, I'm not so sure there's been a more challenging 12 months than what we experienced. I think we can all agree to that. And to be honest, things looked a bit dire, thinking back to when we closed our doors and we watched our membership drop by a third. But our directors and our staff and our volunteers and a fully engaged board immediately snapped into action. As Jen commented, and the members of the board contributed their time and their expertise and their enthusiasm on so many different levels. And I have to point out some of them, and you'll know who you are. As I mentioned, the various acumen that were covered, but whether it was real estate or insurance or fundraising, documentation, not to be undersold, bank loans, grant writing, virtual fitness, investment policy, video and advertising media, building local partnerships. Dave Coughlin even sold a tractor. That's what happened. That's what happened during the past 12 months, was the rise to the challenge. And it was pretty amazing. And thanks to everybody's efforts, I'm very pleased to announce that we've emerged even stronger in many ways than where we began this, 13 months ago. In particular, we now have a meaningful start to an endowment that will fund future scholarships. We've materially improved our financial flexibility and liquidity. We've overhauled and created a very robust development process, thanks to Karen. And we've streamlined and updated all of our membership and accounting and payroll systems, thanks to Melissa and the team, all of which was done to complement what we already have in place with an amazing Holly Pond School, fitness programs, gymnastics program, athletics, special needs, and programming for the town of Darien. Honestly, I could say with full confidence, I've never been more proud to be part of an organization like I am. So last May, we held our annual meeting via Zoom, and it was quite underwhelming. We acknowledged that our outgoing board members at the time, but that wasn't quite sufficient. And so I think it's important that a proper recognition for their efforts and their dedication to the Y is well deserved. So when I call your name, do me a favor and step forward, and please accept a small token of our appreciation and thanks. Jim Pardo's not here, but thank you to Jim Pardo. Dale Wyman is not here as well, but we'll definitely accept that on her behalf. A big thanks to Brian Ramsey in his capacity on the board. He doesn't love recognition, but you should know he was a big part of our success. And a very, very special thanks to my very good lifelong friend, John Schrenker. Thank you, buddy. Now, Jim O'Brien's not here tonight to join us, but he'll be terming off the board. So we have one piece of official business, as we do at our board meetings, and that is to vote in our newest member of the board of directors, Jeff Sino. So as it goes, we need a motion to approve Jeff joining the board. In a second. Terrific. Jeff, welcome. And the final motion really is just to present formally the full slate of the board of directors for the coming year. In no particular order, I might add. Andrew Bonanno, James Bosick, Elizabeth Bradall, Robert Carroll, James Clark, Carrie Coppola, Allison Feely, Allison Fergus, Mark Fitzpatrick, Isabella Rizzo Garcia, Jennifer Height, Catherine Jefferson, Kip Coslow, Matt Tolucci, and as Vice President, Dave Coughlin, as Treasurer, Heidi Smith, and as Secretary, Henry Deasy. Okay, so thank you very much for that. And we're going to bring it back to hearing some more tremendous testimonials for people who have been impacted by the Y. In particular, Caroline Jennings is going to come up and say a few words.
Good evening. I'm Caroline Jennings. This is my husband, Luke, and we have two children, Shep and Emmeline. They are 7.5 and 5.5. We moved to Darien 4 years ago and immediately joined the Y. Amy Dandra has so much to do with that. I called her from Brooklyn, very anxious about the move, and spoke with her at length about the swim program in particular. And from the very first day, we were just really touched by the sense of community, the sense of family. This year in particular, it really meant a lot to me that I could pull up into the circle, and Chef, at only at the time 7, could just come in the door, often greeting Tom Griffin, who's also our next door neighbor. And it just feels like home.
Yeah, no, we moved here 4 years ago. We did not know anybody, and this quickly became our home away from home. It's so much more than a gym. It's like it is a community. It's where you meet people. It's where you feel comfortable. We now think about if we ever move out of our neighborhood, we can't move more than a mile from the Y because it would just be too frustrating. So, I mean, we come here and we just feel like it's amazing, the community that has been created here. So thank you to everybody who's made it a place for our children, a place for our family. We really appreciate it.
And I think one thing too that I've heard Elizabeth speak of is, there are just so many areas to it. It's not just the swimming, it's, it's the gymnastics, it's for you, fitness. So thank you. Yes, it's really a wonderful place, and we appreciate everybody sticking together this year and all of the support and sense of community. It's good to have a sense of normalcy tonight.
Thank you to both of you. And that's one thing I hear a lot. I've been here almost 3 years now, and you meet so many families that have, there's certainly a lot of families that have lived here for a long, long time. And then there's other families that have come in here to start a family and young kids. And I hear over and over again that the Ys become their home. So I hope that we continue to always be a great home for new people coming to this area, because there's certainly a lot of new people coming into the area right now. So next I'd like to invite Jay Davenport.
I took a few notes here. Thanks everyone for having me. I really appreciate it. Quick introduction about myself. I've been in Darien for about 10 years. I grew up on Long Island. Have been involved with a lot of boards. I'm on the football board, land trusts, and a few others. So involved with the community. Very involved with team sports. My wife and I were both collegiate athletes at University of Virginia. We played lacrosse. And so very involved with the lacrosse program here at in Darien and coaching as well. So, team sports is for us and for our kids is a big deal for a lot of reasons. And I think some of you who probably have kids playing in the club sports and all that stuff, you ask yourself, why do we do this? And the reason you do it is because it's a great construct for life, right? To be a part of these teams, to make friends, to have access to different people, and just create such a healthy experience physically and mentally, I think, for these kids. one of the programs in town that's been a huge benefit, and I'll talk about it before COVID-19, is the basketball program at the Y, run by Joe Marzano, who everybody knows is a fantastic guy. The house program, which I've coached in for years for both my son and daughter, is fantastic. I mean, the kids absolutely love it. It's a phenomenal program. Really one of the gems in town, I would say. And then certainly the travel basketball. I have a daughter who's 13 and a son who's 11, both of which play on the travel basketball teams here and have loved it. And Joe has been a friend, mentor to my kids. Really teaching them the game and teaching them a lot of great life lessons I think are going to help them. COVID-19, absolutely devastating for these kids. I think that's something that oftentimes doesn't get talked about enough, and it's very hard to measure, which is the mental impact on kids. So having a 13-year-old daughter and an 11-year-old son, I'm definitely seeing it. I think we're going to see more and more of it, sadly, as the years go on, with the lockdowns did to these children. And I can also say from the fall, being on the Darien football board, we fought very hard to get those boys out there playing, and that was a huge challenge. It took a lot of independent thought, strong leadership by Chris Harwick and his team, and I think it was good for those kids. I'm really happy they had an experience, and that leads me to what my story as it relates to the Y, which was, I mean, you guys supported travel basketball, which, I mean, I know I speak for all of the parents that were involved, but we cannot thank you guys enough. That was such a awesome experience for our kids to be able to have something every week to look forward to, practices, games. I mean, we had to drive, all over the place to play at different spots, which we understood, and we'll do anything for our kids, so we did it. And it was just really wonderful. And I think again, you can't thank you guys enough, and having the ability to think independently. It's a very difficult world right now to say, listen, this makes sense. These kids are struggling. We have to do something for our kids. And a lot of towns didn't do that. And Darien Y did it. And I think that's a huge deal. Joe Marzano specifically did a phenomenal job. I mean, organizing the calendar. There was a period from just before Christmas to middle of January where things were shut down. They had small group sessions, just things to get these kids together and mingling and with their friends. And being active. So just hugely important, a huge proponent of it. Cannot thank the Y enough, and really was a beacon of light during a really hard time for these kids. So thank you.
Thank you, Jay. And, I mean, our overarching goals were to do as much as we could, as safely as we could within the guidelines. So we kind of worked under that all year, and it feels like we're coming out of it. Certainly makes kind of, as we all know, 2020 was a year like no other. Although we were able to keep going, keep adapting, and continuing to serve our members, there are still challenges that lay ahead. We will continue to work together as a community to rebuild, and we'll focus on issues at hand, including mental health, which Jay just alluded to, inactivity due to increased screen time, isolation, and social inequities. We know that we will be stronger when we work with our neighbors. So we'll look to strengthen and build new partnerships with our fellow community nonprofit organizations. We have recently formed a partnership with Ableist. For those of you that do not know, Ableist is a nonprofit organization that provides services and support for over 800 individuals with special needs and their families. The flowers here this evening are provided by Ableist Garden and Gifts. So we look forward to developing this relationship and those with others in 2021. So while the theme for 2020 was resilience, we're focused on 2021 on recovering and rebuilding, both as a worldwide community and also as the Darien YMCA. There's real trauma that has come about from this pandemic, but we want to continue to be here for our community to do everything we can to help the community. So I'd like to conclude by saying thank you to all of you. All of you have supported us during this difficult time, either by continuing or renewing your membership, by joining, or by making a donation. Your support has meant a tremendous amount to us, and I truly appreciate each and every one of you. I'd like to thank you again for those of you that have joined us virtually this evening.